The New York City Football Club closed out April pure joy, a late game winner, and in the month of April, no MLS team had more points. Mounsef Gate continues, however. Live tonight on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
I'm Glenn Crooks, Roberto Abramowitz. Great to be with you live again with Shane producing. And Roberto, unbeaten in 3 wins in a row for the big guys, and the best month of April in MLS. And, it's, are people thinking maybe this team could win MLS Cup and we could have those excited calls again from wherever we would be?
We're a ways away from that.
Right.
Happy to see that the team is doing well. I think the team is improving every game. I like to, you'd like to see them be more consistent in front of goal. They keep on missing chances when they've had their opportunities, but they've managed to find a way to win. And they actually got a goal. Listen to this, Glenn, because you were there, you saw this, but They actually got a goal from a center forward. I was like, wow. Look at that.
Well, it's his second goal, so they had one.
But he wasn't playing center forward when he scored his first goal.
Okay, he had moved out to the wing. He'd started as his twin striker, so I think we'll call him a center forward for that game. But he drifted out wide to the right, even though I understand. There was a change of shape that game. But This one was – so here, again, I don't know how it went on your commentary, but I know Matty Lawrence, my analyst, there was a point where he was calling for Jovan Mijatovic. If you're gonna use the guy, let's get him in now. Mm-hmm. So when Alonso Martinez came in, it was like, because we know
exactly
because Nick Cushing said in the pregame show that if he really needed Mijatovic for some reason in the first half, like an injury or something happened, he wouldn't hesitate to do it. So he was definitely fit to play 30 or 40 minutes, but there we see Alonso Martinez. Wow.
I mean, I was surprised as well. I mean, I thought that, if Bakrar was coming out, Mijatovic was coming in. I mean, that's pretty much the like for like. And then as the game progressed and we saw what was going on, and then that wasn't the case. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do Alonso Martinez for Bakrar in the 82nd minute. All right, let's see how that works. And I didn't get a chance to speak to Nick. We'll get a chance to speak to him on Friday on why he decided to go with Martinez and not Mijatovic, because Mijatovic was ready. Mijatovic was training, warming up behind the bench. He's obviously part of the 20, but Alonso Martinez, who can play striker, and Nick has spoken about glowingly in many terms about the fact that he's probably the most accurate shooter that the team has. So
he's finished.
He gave him a chance. By the way, it worked. It worked.
This is the point. Well, first of all, the first point about he's a great finishers in training don't always translate into matches. So I don't want to hear about it unless they're doing it in matches. But he's been given a chance, and he completed the task after his first goal. Got rewarded with a start the next game, and then really underperformed. You'd have to say he just really didn't contribute. Now getting this late goal, I mean, he's a viable option. But the thing, Nick Cushing's gotten so much crap, especially on when you sub. I suppose Ronnie Dyla did too, and then Nick Cushing, and I think all coaches go through this, but he deserves a certain amount of credit here for going with Martinez over Mijatovic because it did work.
Absolutely.
And he started Julian Fernandez instead of Hannes Wolf. And what did Fernandez do? Well, he produced as well with the assist on the Parks goal. So
he did.
and he had a very good match.
And it was funny because I saw when I saw Nick last Thursday, I asked him and I said, do you have a conundrum as far as Julian Fernandez has performed very well for you coming off the bench, scoring in stoppage time 2 games in a row? I mean, so do you keep him in that role because he's performing well at it, or do you start him? And he was like, I'm starting him. Like, okay. It was like that. He's like, I'm starting him. And I was like, all right, fine. And so, and it worked out. I mean, it was a beautiful service. My goodness. And that, he's got 2 of those because he assisted on O'Toole's goal as well. And that was a stunning serve.
They both good. This was off the dead ball, and this is how you heard it on the English side of the New York City FC network.
For New York City FC, and it's going to be Fernandez and Parks, and it's 1-1. Keith Parks with the header off the delivery from Julian Fernandez. It's a set-piece goal for New York City FC. We've been waiting to see that from Keaton Parks in 2024.
Yep, his first goal. His first goal since June 25th, 2023 against Portland. And he's only had 3 goals total since the beginning of last season. So the lack of scoring from Parks, and we've heard him, in our own chats, whether off mic or on mic, he one of his hopes and goals and what he's been working on, during his time at New York City is to be better in front of goal. And you can't get much better than that finish, but can it happen a little bit more frequently? Because again, New York City's trying to score 20 more goals than they did last year in order to finish in the top 4. Well, they're now 6th place, but they've scored 11 goals in 10 games. So that's, they're still well behind schedule.
Yeah, but they've been, it's been getting better, right? But also how much is that is due to home cooking. So, you have that because once you start looking at the numbers as far as what's going on at home versus on the road, and you could take somebody like Santi Rodriguez, and this is where, it really comes. So he had his 6th point. They call it goal contributions. To me, it's points, right? 4 goals, 2 assists.
Well, they call it so you're going to go against what they call goal contributions now, Roberto. So just say it, man.
I am. I'm just calling it points. Why, we're changing all this terminology, whatever. Anyway, let me get to my point. So he's got 15 points.
Yes.
He's got 15 points in 22 home matches and only 4 in 19 away matches. So it's how do you view that as opposed to how do you view that?
Just to be clear, that's since the beginning of last season. I just want to make sure. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my point being, though, is it because Santi plays better, or is it because the whole team plays better, and then Santi is, a lot of his assists get turned into goals, his passes get turned into goals, he scores. What's first, the chicken or the egg? No,
I think maybe he likes running around on a smaller pitch. Who knows? But let's put this graphic up. This came from MLS Communications today about New York City's month of April. Check it out.
Wait, MLS Communications knows that New York City exists?
Apparently, and they even put
it's been a while.
They got the proper Twitter address and everything at New York City FC. But
yes.
So 10 points in April out of a possible 12, and no MLS team had more. And then talking about Santi Rodriguez and Julian Fernandez, and also the 3 consecutive stoppage time goals, all 3 wins, 1 game winner. That was Martinez. That's the first time in club history that that's occurred. So it's good times for now, and you've got another home game against Colorado, but then it's back on the road, and there's a stretch in. I think it's 3 out of 4 on the road after the Colorado game, and then I pointed to a stretch in July leading into Leagues Cup, Roberto, 4 consecutive road games.
Yeah.
So getting points in these home matches is
crucial,
vital, just vital, and the Alonso Martinez, let's just look at the celebration. I love this picture. I'm not sure which New York City photographer took it, but there's Martinez after scoring the game winner. Look how happy Sands is. He's hugging Santi Rodriguez, who had a great assist on it. And Santi's just played so well.
Yes, he has.
And look, Andres Pereira came in the 90. He came in late again, but he's not showing that he's unhappy or distressed because he's basically been knocked out of the 11 with the consistency of Sands and Parks together. And who else is there? I guess that's Michi Ilinic. But I love the celebration pictures.
Without a doubt. So looking at the schedule right now, this is going to be fun for a while. Okay, so after Colorado, which is Sunday at Citi Field, 2 games on the road, but within 4 days. Saturday at Toronto, Wednesday at Philly, right? May 11th and May 15th. They come home May 18th again, and that's again at Citi Field. And first time that they're playing the Red Bulls at Citi Field. And I wonder how many seats are going to open up for that, because regularly at Yankee Stadium, it's been in and around 30,000, a little bit north or a little bit south of 30,000. So at Citi Field, they've basically only opened up 23,000 seats, 23,500. But of those, they've only gotten like 22,000. They've never really ever sold out the 23,000. But they can sell more tickets at Citi Field. So I'm wondering if they're going to open up areas that they haven't opened up before, if the tickets go north of 23,000, if they start pushing that. Because they've got to tell the people at Citi Field in advance. They've got to hire people to man those stations, and there's all these things.
Well, just put in your notes that the week prior we'll bring it up on our podcast here, New York City FC Views.
All right. Then after that, they go to New England and
NYCFC Views.
Yes, and New England has been horrific. Then 2 games at home against San Jose and Columbus.
Well. New England losing to Miami. Let's get to that in a moment. But it's the here's another thing that is pretty interesting statistically, I thought. So New York City's conceded 4 goals in the first 15 minutes this season. That's not good.
No.
Only Inter Miami and Orlando City have conceded more. So it's interesting. Inter Miami's aren't they in the Supporter Shield lead? So but to take the other side of it, New York City has 7 points recovered in those 4 matches, which is only trailing Inter Miami, of course, and the Colorado Rapids, their opponent.
Right, 14-8 on those 2. And Colorado is who they face this Sunday.
That's true. The thing I wanted to ask about Colorado, I've started to kind of study them. I haven't really gotten too deeply into it other than highlights. But the designated player, Kevin Cabral, who was at the Galaxy for 2 years, and this is his second year with Colorado. In his 4 seasons in MLS, he's got 9 goals in 96 games. I mean, we're barking about Mounsef Bakrar, but Cabral, he's got to be like a massive disappointment. I've heard that they're maybe going to try to get rid of him in the summer or whatever, but I wonder what's going on.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard. Yeah, he's been very disappointing. He was very disappointing with the Galaxy, which is why he wound up moving on. So far this season, in 403 minutes, he's got 1 goal and 1 assist. And he's started 5 games and he's played 8. So, there's nothing very, very special about what he's done. And he hasn't scored a goal since March 16th in a 1-1 tie with Seattle, where he came off the bench and he got a goal and he got a yellow card in that game too. So that's been it.
That's his big goal. I mean, tying at Seattle probably doesn't sound as great as it normally would be, but his goal came in the 88th minute. And hey, Roberto, I mentioned Bakrar, and I want you to look at this too. So I'm convinced that that's the loudest it's been at Yankee Stadium in a long, long time. I don't remember the stadium being that loud when Bakrar scored, and of course it was ruled offside correctly, I think.
Yes.
Although we didn't get great angles of it.
I got one. I got to see one. I don't know if you missed out that replay, but there was one replay that was very clear that he was absolutely offside. It was like, no doubt.
Well, let's see what I brought in here and see if this.
No, let's see.
See if this. So this is just kind of we right there is where you can see it played. So I know that weak side defender up top did not keep him on, and he's obviously behind that central defender. The thing about it though, and I want to ask Nick this too, because he's the one that called it Mounsef Gate. So because we have to ask about it every week. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
So is he going to get another start? I mean, how is he going to play it this week against Colorado? But the one thing I would say is Bakrar didn't know that he was offside. The defender definitely, Malanda, did not know he was offside because he kept going. And the way he shouldered him off, got balanced, and then with the left foot, I haven't seen him strike it with the left foot like that before. It was a great finish. So I wonder, even though if it was offside, if that's a moment that gives him more clarity in front of goal. Seriously, even though it didn't count.
I think so. That's one of the things that I thought after watching the play and how it developed, and it's exactly that. He didn't know he was offside until after he scored the goal. So for him, that's a real play against a real defender and a real goalie, trying to do their best to stop him. So, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, which was score. But, you got to feel that the guy is also a little bit snake bitten, because later on in the game, he had an opportunity on the right side and he hit the ball very, very well. It hit the post, it hit the goalkeeper, and then it went out as opposed to going in. If he at least had gotten that would have been, the ball went in after it hit the goalkeeper. Hey, it's a goal, but although it would have been an own goal, but still.
The old adage with a goal scorer that's in a drought, it doesn't matter if it goes off the back of his head. It doesn't matter if it clangs off the anything. Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter if it goes in. It's just like, all right, I finally got one or contributed to one. How about the Rapids and New York City FC? They played 6 times, so we know that going into that Charlotte match, New York City had never beaten Charlotte in 5 tries. Well, Colorado's coming in. You know how many wins they have against New York City in 6 games?
0.
So that's something you have to fight off as well. And they've been in decent form. I mean, they lost this most recent match, Colorado.
2-1 in Cincinnati, which is not an easy place to play.
No, as
New York City found out.
As they very well know. And one thing before we leave New York City is they put a big announcement out about their partnership with Legends, with the premium and the suites and some of the food offerings. And to be honest with you, Roberto, that doesn't interest me as much as this should be one of their food items. Nottingham Forest has come out with something that looks delicious. And I think our producer, Shane and Jimmy, they both agreed.
Got to be kidding me.
It's a pizza. You've
got to be kidding me. Glenn.
So this has to be one of the choices.
No.
I don't care if it's a local vendor. I don't care if Legend. I want to see Brad Sims in one of the executive suites eat this.
No.
And I want pictures.
No. Yep. You go and enjoy yourself. Pizza Dog, it's called. Oh God.
And Nottingham Forest,
7 pounds, by the way. At City Field, by the way, that would be like $12.
Well, it's 7 pounds at Nottingham Forest. I wonder, poor Nottingham Forest. They're putting out tweets about you better investigate referees and VARs because they're fans of other teams. And then Howard Webb comes out and says, "Yeah, you got screwed on one of our calls this weekend. Sorry." I mean, this team is fighting for, survival.
Exactly. They're barely above the relegation. And, they've got 2 Americans, Matt Turner and Gio Reyna. Yeah. So you hope that they find a way to stay up. Yeah.
Well, if you eat
do you have anything else in New York City?
If you eat that pizza dog, you'll stay up all night. That's what I would say. You could stay up in the standings and stay up all night.
Oh, God, please no. I don't want anything like that at City Field, or not even at City Field, at New York City Sponsor Stadium, whatever it's called right now.
Well, it's just a couple of other MLS notes. So Miami on the road beat New England at Gillette. They had 65,000 plus. I know that's kind of old news now, but we haven't been on since it. Yeah. And so that's a record crowd there. And then Miami, I mean, there you go. You look at the crowd after Messi, 2 goals, and an assist, and then he pretty much assisted on the 4th goal as well. His shot rebounded and then was scored by Kramoski. So, but those shots into the crowd of, I'm sure, New England supporters who are either wearing Messi gear and they're applauding Messi. That's the part I understand it, but I just that is a fandom issue for me. For instance, if they come to Yankee Stadium and there's 48,000 people and there's people in there that start cheering for Messi if he scores, that's not good, man.
If they're wearing New York City shirts, no. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be wearing Inter Miami shirts, and they're going to be wearing Argentina national team shirts.
Okay, well
That's for sure.
That's fine. So what? New York City's averaging about 21,000 plus in Yankee Stadium games. So if they get 48,000, in all likelihood, they're it's not going to be all New York City fans. So that's okay.
No, for sure it's not. More than half the stadium will probably be Messi fans, and tickets aren't cheap. They're over $200, to start. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of money for whoever goes. But look, it's not as bad as a lot that I've seen.
What are you doing with your tickets? You have 2 tickets.
Yeah, Eddie is going to go and take a friend, a very lucky friend.
A very lucky friend. Boy, he could have some fun with that ticket. Highest bidder.
Yeah, no, well, he's not going to do anything like that. That's not his style. Well, maybe it would be, but I'm not going to let him. Okay. It's my ticket still. Well, so he can bring a friend, whoever he wants, whoever he thinks is worthy, and he treats him to a game. And that's it. The funny thing is that Eddie's going to be at college. He's going to have to travel back. He's going to have to travel back to New York City to watch the game.
Well, I'm sure it'll be worth it. And Messi is setting an MLS record, 5 consecutive games with multiple goal contributions and 16 goal contributions, or points, as Roberto likes to say.
Thank you.
In his first 7 games here in the 2024 season. So Seattle last night loses to Seattle. Philadelphia has lost 2 home games for the first time in 3 years. So what is that? Since 2021. And this was a interesting game because it was started at the 6-minute mark because they tried to play it on March the 9th. And I think we all remember it was torrential. The rain and the storm that night was just crazy. And so you had to, the way it worked, the game resumed from the moment it was halted, and you had to use the same lineups and same substitutes unless people were injured or weren't on the team anymore. But I had this idea, Roberto. This is the way I would have done it because Yamar started for Seattle at the back in place of Xavier Arriaga. I don't know if it's Xavier or Javier. I'm not sure. Javier Arriaga, who was traded to New England last week. Now, if I were running this, if it were me, I would make him leave New England, come back, put his Seattle uniform back on, and play the game. Now, that's fun. Why not? Why can't we ever have fun, man?
Is it because he's New England's property, and if he gets hurt in that game, then it's an issue.
Then you should.
It's not much fun when that happens.
You should have been more careful about trading for a guy that would have to come back and play in this game. My rule is, even if you're traded, you have to come back and play in a game.
I'm very glad you're not commissioner. Okay, you're making this quite easy.
Just for the fun of it. What else happened? Seattle's. That was a big win for them. That's just their second.
Yeah, they needed the points. I'm really shocked by Philly. I mean, that's really surprising. I mean, they were way down, try to come back in the second half, and
3-0
not accomplish it. Well, what we've heard from Philly, by the way, is that they want to expand their stadium, that they're looking into adding seats, and they also have to figure out how to do it without blocking the view of the bridge. You don't want to block the view of the Commodore Barry Bridge, which is stunning. No. So that part has to stay open somehow, and then they can add seats and and block the rest of it, and they don't care. But the Commodore Barry Bridge, leave it alone, and expand the press box while you're at it, please, and add another 1 or 2 radio booths,
or expand the current booths that are now 6 feet wide and barely fit 2 people. But it's an older stadium. They never really completed it to the level that they wanted to. That for sure happened, and that's what happens sometimes when maybe all the money doesn't get kicked in for it. But Philadelphia, they were unbeaten, and now they've lost 2, and both at home, which is crazy for them. What was the other game I wanted to talk about? Red Bulls played 1-1 to Vancouver. Red Bulls are unbeaten in 6.
They're pretty good.
And Vancouver's the only MLS team to score in every match. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is very good. They're fun to watch. Vancouver. They're a fun team. I enjoy watching them. If I can get home in time after our game and they happen to be playing, I'll always try to put them on. They're
Well,
funny.
and I shared this with you because of all that. There were 8 games that kicked off simultaneously on Saturday, which, it appears that MLS has spread it out a little bit more because we
They
know
have.
New York City's got a Friday game, we got a Sunday game coming up, and there's but in a minor way have they said. I mean, you had 8 games kick off at the same time on Saturday.
Yeah,
So
which is
I had
nuts.
shared this with you, Ariel, and Maddie, the radio broadcast quartet for New York City, that I had a supporter write to me because they were watching Apple TV but listening to our English hometown commentary, and he kind of yelled at me for giving the Miami score because I ruined it for him because he was recording it or whatever. And he did. I know what you're going to say, but let me just finish the story. So because there's a grain of the problem is the games are all played at the same time, and of course everybody wants to watch the Miami game. So he was kind of mad at me for saying the score without a warning or anything because he didn't want to know before he went back and watched the game. But I agree, you're shaking your head and I understand. And Maddie and Ariel said the same thing. Are you kidding me? And plus we're sponsored to give the scores. So
Yes.
That's one thing. So we have to give it.
By the Intercontinental Hotel, New York Barclays.
But what we could do, and what I did we can kind of billboard it so that if somebody hears, they can shut down the sound for a couple of seconds.
I mean, you can, but you can't because it's just natural and things happen and the goal is scored. And Ariel, like, for instance, in our broadcast, Ariel has on his iPad, he's got the, other games going on as well. He's watching MLS 360. And so things happen, you turn around and then we want to be able to keep people updated because that's also a lot of fun for a lot of people.
I agree.
But again, we can't please everybody. And, there's going to be a certain amount of people that either aren't going to like things that you're going to do in a broadcast or aren't going to like you or aren't going to like me. These are the things that we have to accept as broadcasters, that we're not everybody's cup of tea, and our broadcasts aren't going to be everybody's cup of tea. Once you start trying to please everybody, you please nobody. And so for those who would want us not to mention not to mention the games and what else is going on, we can't do that. We apologize. And I really don't know what else to say. But I mean, also, I don't know. I mean, I can't remember how Apple does their games. If they're running the scores on a crawl or, showing them, during the other games.
No, I think it's kind of interesting. They don't. I think that at halftime, they'll do the whole review of what's been going on. But I think during the games, they may not. I mean, all we do generally is watch games back to help prepare in any game that we want to watch. So I'm not really paying attention to, because we already know all the results when we're seeing the games too. But the bigger point here, Roberto, is the problem is that all the games are being kicked off simultaneously. Not all of them, but a majority of the games in MLS kick off on the same day at the same time. And it's very difficult for those who, and they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot for this on the Miami side. That game, if they really want to put that game on at another time or something. I don't know.
It should be a standalone game. The Miami game should always be a standalone game. I really believe that because everybody wants to see Messi. That's the reason why, most of the people have bought MLS Season Pass, especially since he got here. And not only here in the United States, but it's the same thing all over the world. And I think that they should have like a special time for his game. So, it's appointment broadcast, but at the same time, it's not always possible. And it's very hard, like in the summer, to be playing games, let's say at 5:00 in Miami, right? In Fort Lauderdale, because the heat and humidity is just unbearable to be able to try to play. So you got to try to play that as late as possible. I would almost say play those games at 8:30 or so. Or if you wanted to do a 7 and 9 and have that as your 9:00 game, then maybe even do that. It might be a little bit late locally to start a game at 9:00 because that's not normal for the U.S. But at the same time, it may just make for a better game because it'll just be a little bit cooler and maybe a little bit less humid.
Yeah, but I'm
not a fan of all these games at the same time. They started the season with a lot of 4:00 games, I think even 2:00 games. And, those were standalones. And I like that. I like that they had games, different windows. You can actually watch it because as a fan, just as a fan, I can't watch any games. Because by the time
I-
we're preparing, by the time we're ending, by the time we get home, except for the last hour of the last game of the night at 10:30, 11:30, that's all you get to watch, and that's it. And that's
Well, you
not cool.
turn on your Sirius XMFC and you listen to whatever game's on also. And by the way, we're the Colorado at New York City FC Game City Field is going to be on Sirius XMFC. I'm happy to say. So
Wow, you're going to get triple exposure.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy. So well, that's always nice. What was I going to say? Two other little things. I always like to keep track of former New York City players, right? Sebastian Ibeagha, team of the match day for FC Dallas at the back. They beat Houston 2-0. The Dynamo had a really early red card, but Ibeagha is still getting it done, and it's with FC Dallas.
Dallas really needed that. They've been under fire.
Yep. And
did you see
Eber?
Okay, go.
Eber is playing in the Chinese Super League for Hangzhou Mighty Lions FC. In their first 4 matches, he's got 3 goals. 3 goals.
All right.
So I just sent a congratulatory note, and here was his response. You're gonna love it, Roberto. His response was very simple. He said, "H9 is back."
All right. I love it.
That's it.
I love it. So there was this article.
Yes.
And I forget if it was in the I forget if it was the Athletic or it was an MLS article, but there was an article about all the coaches on the hot seat.
Yeah.
No Nick Cushing.
No, he was in the afterthought. He was.
Oh, it was the afterthought at the bottom, but basically
he was honorable mention, I think, at the bottom. And
they listed like 7 or 8 people way before it. They mentioned him as a throwaway line at the end. So that's why I said no Nick Cushing.
How the hell are you gonna sack a guy that's unbeaten in 5-3 on the trot? And sorry, man. Plus, another guy who was definitely on the as far as supporters looking in and people just from the outside in was Josh Wolf. Well, look what they're doing. Also, Josh Wolf now is like, oh, I guess he knows what he's doing. I mean, I think there's 2 sides of MLS. Sometimes, look, MLS coaches, for the most part, they have a very long leash compared to, where, Premier League, Championship, anywhere in the world,
Mexico, especially.
Mexico, anywhere in the world, probably. So, but these are cases with Nick and Josh in particular that, trusting them and holding out and waiting was, you could see was probably a good idea in both cases, and we're still so much time remaining in the season, so many games, so many decisions, so many, preparation, there's all kinds of stuff. But
I'm very critical of the way they manage things in Mexico. Because obviously I cover a lot of Mexican soccer and stuff. So I'm very critical of the way that they're very trigger happy in Mexico. A guy loses 2 games in a row and it's already his seat is on fire, that sort of thing. God forbid he ever loses 3 and then, he's gone. Had it been Mexico, nor Josh Wolf nor Nick Cushing would have had jobs. They would have been fired. Yeah. But this is here. And although last year, I believe we started seeing that leash get a couple of inches shorter with a lot of coaches, and we saw a lot of movement last year as far as that was concerned. It's still nowhere near Mexico, and I'm glad that it's nowhere near Mexico because that is absurd how quickly coaches get fired and the same guys get recycled. It's sort of like they throw them into like a dryer and then they like stick their hand in and pull another guy out, and it's like the same guys all over again.
That's the old Major League Baseball way of doing things.
Yeah.
And those MLS coaches, I mean, I don't remember each one of them off the top of my head because I remember there were 8 or 9 vacancies at one point, or firings. But most of them were the manager the prior season. So it wasn't like they came in new and boom, they were gone after 8 games, which happens all over the world, if it's not going well, like a Caleb Porter. Caleb Porter's another one that wouldn't, he wouldn't have survived in Mexico or where would he have survived, really?
It's hard to say. And now, if New England decides to go full rebuild because they're just not really good right now, and they decide to go into that mode, then, So, we'll see what happens. I don't know if he's the guy. They're going to rebuild it in his image, or they're going to go in a different direction. It's a really interesting thing that's going on in New England, because they got a lot of talented players, but they also have a lot of guys that are filling out the roster.
All right, if you're watching this live a little bit later on tonight, Roberto, CONCACAF Champions Cup, it's at 10:15 Eastern, and you mentioned Mexico, and we've mentioned MLS, and it's Liga MX versus MLS. Columbus Crew is down at Monterrey, and Monterrey is interesting. I read an article in Pro Soccer Wire. You should look this up, Roberto. But Monterrey, they want to be the team of choice in the U.S. That's for like branding. They want to be, and leading into all these different things happening in the States, FIFA Club World Cup, the World Cup in 26. And there are 5 Rayados branded youth tournaments across the states currently, which I didn't know. And they're already in partnership with North Carolina FC of the USL Championship, Monterrey. So pretty interesting, I think, that they're making this big push.
It is. So the president of the club, his name is Tato Noriega, and Tato was worked with me at ESPN for several years, and we were really good friends, and we would hang out a lot. And
get him on the show, man.
I'll ask him for sure. I'll ask him to do that. They blew up my team. I wasn't very happy with them last week because they blew up my team 5-2, Necaxa. Yeah. So I wasn't happy. So they made it straight into the playoffs, while Necaxa now has to do the play-in. And their playoff system is identical to that of the NBA. They literally just ripped it off. So they're going to be fine, but they got to play the Crew. They haven't been playing very well, aside from that game against Necaxa, because they lost to the Crew 2-1. Before that, they lost to Monterrey 2-0. They tied Tigres 3-3 at home after they had beaten Inter Miami, and before that, they lost to Cruz Azul by a score of 2-1. They had beaten Miami 2-1 in Champions Cup. And before that, they lost to Chivas 2-0. So in Mexico, they had been doing very, very poorly until they beat Necaxa. And now they got to play the Crew, who, they played Tigres very, very well. And they deserved, to come away with a tie that turned into a penalty kick shootout victory. People get upset saying when I say, well, they won the game. But fine, they didn't.
You should go back and watch the Columbus CF Montreal game. Wilfred Nancy for Columbus, and Laurent Courtois, who coached the Columbus 2 team in MLS Next Pro. But he and Wilfred are Frenchmen. They are very connected in the styles of play. And it was like watching mirror teams. Really interesting match. And appropriately, it ended 0-0. Earlier today, Roberto, we know that I don't know if you watched the Champions League, but
yes, I did.
It was pretty cool to see. Well, first of all, that yellow wall at Dortmund is 24,000. Let's just round it up. It's 25,000.
Yeah.
This wall. If you've never seen it, I think it's the most amazing spectacle in global football. It's so intimidating.
It's great.
Man, when
you're in that stadium, but there wasn't the wall. So when Germany plays there, they use seats. When Borussia Dortmund plays there, it's standing room only, and that's why they can get 25,000 people there. And it is just absolutely fantastic. I love watching Borussia Dortmund play, mostly because of that wall, because it is just absolutely fantastic.
It's just,
it's a great stadium. It's a great, great stadium.
They beat PSG 1-0, so the second leg will be...
but by the way, both those teams missed so many goals. Oh, my God. Yeah. It was like sitter galore and everything over the net, into the goalie, off the post again. It was nuts.
Those 2 back-to-back posts, I know Mbappe was one of them, but they were inside of the post where they basically travel back along the goal line. And then a moment later, same sequence, the other inside post across the goal line. That was a great sequence. U.S. men's national team, bad news. Well, just bad news for the kid. Serginho Dest does have a torn ACL. So, his summer is done. So no Copa America. But now it puts a former New York City homegrown right at the forefront of things, Joe Scally.
Joe Scally is going to compete for that position, right? Because you have to think that Anthony Robinson is going to be on the left. So it gives Scally an opportunity, but he's not the only one. So there's going to be a little bit of competition for that right side position for now. But Scally, he'll definitely get a chance. He'll be called up. If he's not injured, he's getting called up for sure.
One final thing, just to because I think this game will happen before unless we have a surprise podcast that we put out. But the U.S. Open Cup 1 week from tonight, so New York City FC 2 will host the Colorado Switchbacks. You love the Switchbacks. A USL Championship team, tough match, May 8th at Belson Stadium. So hopefully it's a nice night, and hopefully it's just packed. That would be very cool.
I hope I can go. I'm just have to check my. I might be able to make it.
Well, I'm sure
I have something scheduled, but but it's in the morning, so hopefully by evening I'll be free.
Okay, I'm sure Jonathan Shore and his parents are very happy if you could be at the game, Roberto. I think that would really make them happy.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. Anyway,
the rest of them. Anyway, all right. Listen, so we got a new start time this weekend because Sunday's game is in the afternoon. So for Roberto and Ariel, 2:30 for their pregame live. Maddie and I will go on at what time is ours? 3:15, and then
mine's easy to do because it's 90 minutes before start time.
All right, 3:15, but I have the starting 11, so I get to go over that a little bit. But anyway, so and then both of us start at 3:45 with our live commentary pregame show, with kickoff at 4:10, we would suspect.
4:10, yes.
And against the Colorado Rapids. So it's a fun match, and it's the last game of a 5-game homestand as New York City pretty much owned April, all at home. So let's see if they can close it out on a positive note, Roberto.
Absolutely. On Cinco de Mayo. And by the way, New York City has a promotion, as a ticket promotion. I hope it's still going, but they have a Cinco de Mayo ticket promotion, tickets for $5. So I've gotten several emails from the team about getting those tickets, $5 tickets for the match. So if you haven't gotten an email, with that, or if you go to Ticketmaster or use the app, see if those tickets are still available. I don't know how long they were going to be available for, but there were $5 tickets for the match, which is fantastic. Go.
How about tacos and margaritas, man? Is the club not providing that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But there might be that, you might find it at Citi Field. I haven't been to be able to walk around the inside of Citi Field to see what the food offerings are, but I heard that they're very good.
We're busy working.
I know. We got to do that.
We got to do that. So we'll look forward to presenting the game for you. If you're at the game, enjoy. And so far, Roberto, I'm Glenn. And thanks to Shane and our new guy, Jimmy, behind the scenes. And this has been NYCFC Views Live.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.